Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. We're glad you're here this morning, and if it's your first time here, thank you for sharing your morning with us. At Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton, our mission is to be a community of love that supports people in experiencing real transformation, mostly through the power of that love. If you're new or your contact information has changed, please take a moment to fill out that little tear-off strip that's on the side of your program cover and drop it off at the Welcome Center or in the offering basket as it comes around. I see we still have a bunch of people traveling this weekend, so thank you all for being here. It's a gorgeous day out there, I know, and it's going to be even more gorgeous when we're finished, so we can go rake our leaves or ride our bicycles or whatever we're going to do.
Write our finals.
Write our finals. Says a ministerial student, write our finals. Yeah. This morning, let's see, Jerry Blumgold is going to give our reading and invocation, and our visual holder in the back is Linda Smith. And Jerry and Becky will offer our interfaith candle lighting, which we do every week to remind ourselves of all the sources of wisdom that there are out there that are all paths leading to the same source. The kids today are with Stephanie, is that right? Teresa. Okay, the kids are with Teresa today. So she gathers them up if they're... Do we have any kids? Oh, we do. Good. Yay! Let's just quickly bless all their activity today, knowing that there too, Spirit is shining so brightly, free and unencumbered and glowing with life and love and eagerness for what the day is to bring. And we all simply absorb that, learn from it, see it, and say, yes, oh, there is Spirit in expression. So I give great gratitude as I bless everything that happens in the youth program today. I call it good and very good, and I know that there too, love is happening and transforming everything. Thank you, God. And so it is. A couple of quick announcements. There's an invitation in your bulletin to join me this coming Wednesday, November 28th, for a Wednesday evening experience that we'll create together. I have some ideas, but what I really want to know is what you want and need as that midweek spiritual pick-me-up. I'm thinking discussion and some spiritual practice together on the topic of how do we transform this crazy maelstrom of information and news and happenings that we call life into something beautiful on a in our day-to-day lives. So come and let me have your input and have a good time, and it'll be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Then on Friday, November 30th, it's time to deck the walls for the holidays. So we hope you can join us. We'll have some food, bring something to share. We'll have some food, and we'll hang up wreaths and ribbons and put up our tree and make the place pretty for the holidays. And then 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks from today is our holiday celebration meal after service. Bring a potluck dish to share, and we will provide the turkey and ham and tofurkey, I think, for those of us who don't indulge in meat. It's always really fun, and there's always way enough food for the masses. So even if you don't bring something, plan to stay. It's a great time to simply wish each other happy holidays and indulge in a little bit of that love stuff. Also, December, I'm really excited about this. December 13th, the Spiritual Book Club is back in action. So please take a look at the back side of your bulletin, the calendar page, for more information on that. The Spiritual Book Club is something that has been going on for a long time, and I'm glad to see it's back and running again. And they're starting with a wonderful book by Pam Grout, who is always a wonderful author. I love the title too, Thank and Grow Rich. A 30-day experiment in shameless gratitude and unabashed joy. I love that, shameless gratitude. That's the only way you should have gratitude, is just full out, right? It is birthday Sunday today. I think there's cake. Is there cake?
Yes. Yep.
There's cake in the social hall after the service. Let's say happy birthday to Jesse Buckner, Jerry Blumgold, Denise Klein, Lana Mayhew, Signe McManaman, Marge Russell, Jorge Souza, and Gary Victor. Happy birthday, y'all. If there's anybody whose birthday I missed that's in November, please let us know afterwards so we can put you in our database correctly. Who knows, we may have your birthday in March and it belongs in November, so please let us know. Finally, if there's something after service that you would like some prayer support for or prayer help with, please see any of the ladies, women in their gorgeous teal or white stoles. They're our licensed our prayer practitioners, and they have a lot of skill and a lot of experience in seeing through to the truth, even when you can't. So on Sundays, they give you the gift of what we call a 1-minute miracle after service. Please take advantage of that and just walk up and ask them for prayer, and they will happily oblige. Now it's time for some more music. Another India Ari song called Break the Shell.
We light the first candle to honor Buddhism. The 3 factors that seem to have the greatest influence on increasing our happiness are our ability to reframe our situation more positively, our ability to experience gratitude, and our choice to be kind and generous. We light the second candle to honor Christianity. God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are family, that we are made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. We light the third candle to honor South African spirituality. Ubuntu is the essence of being human. Ubuntu speaks particularly about the fact you can't exist as a human being in isolation. It speaks about our interconnectedness. When you have this quality of Ubuntu, you are known for your generosity. We are connected, and what you do affects the whole world. When you do well, it spreads out. It is for the whole of humanity. We light the fourth candle to honor Islam. In the Islamic way of life, it is only by serving other human beings that we can truly connect to our Creator. We light the fifth candle to honor North American First Nations spirituality. The first piece, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that its center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. This is real peace. We light the sixth candle to honor Sikhism. The true path to God lies in the service of our fellow beings. We light the final candle to honor Hinduism. He alone sees truly who sees God the same in every creature. Seeing the same God everywhere, he does not harm himself or others. Today's reading is from Ernest Holmes. No matter what the external object may be in which we place our security or possibility of happiness, we shall never become whole until we have separated all negative reactions from that object, because wholeness is within the self and nowhere else. The individual security is within the self. Recognizing the same security within others, we work and play with them in gladness. We are whole and they are whole, because God in us is whole. Let's take these words into the silence for a moment. So I know today this service is in divine order. That everything that unfolds is God expressing. Every word spoken, every note played, every note sung is God unfolding. And it is for us, for our truth, to express our divine nature. And so I thank you, God, for the time that we are sharing, for the oneness that we are. And so it is.
So Ernest Holmes called this little essay that today's reading comes from Transference. It's an unfortunate topic because he's not really writing about transference at all. The point that he's writing about, I think, is summed up in that paragraph where he says, we shall never become whole until we've separated all negative reactions from whatever it is out there that we're looking at to make us whole. I would go further. Not just negative reactions, attachments. We have to sever all our attachments to that thing out there that we think is going to make us whole. He talks about in the whole essay from which this comes, which is in the Living the Science of Mind, the name of the book is. He talks about some of the ideas that we've all grown up with, whether we claim to believe in them or not. The ideas that tell us that something out there is going to satisfy us, something out there is going to make us happy, something out there is going to provide what we think we're missing. He points out that even our society's underlying notion of salvation has taught us to look for someone out there or something out there on which we pin our hopes of forgiveness. People are still looking out there for a person or an idea or a book or an institution for their own wholeness. And our cultural ethos is all about that, is it not? I mean, we grow up in this Judeo-Christian atmosphere that talks about the Messiah, whether you're Jewish or Christian, and that means that there's something out there that's going to fill that hole. Our cultural ethos is also about external things fulfilling us. And the thing is that wholeness can't be found out there anywhere. That feeling of wholeness that we're all looking for can only be found here within ourselves. And that's because it's already there. It already exists. What we have to do is uncover it. What we have to do is pull off and throw away, hopefully, or at least store somewhere else, all the baggage that we've piled on top of our own sense of wholeness, our own sense of equanimity and balance and grace. And so Holmes ends up his essay like this: the individual security is within the self. Recognizing this same security within others, we work and play with them in gladness. We are whole and they are whole because God within us is whole. What a different world it would be if everyone lived from their own innate wholeness, wouldn't it? It would be such a different place. You can just picture it. Instead of trying to fill our brokenness with stuff or power or whatever, we live and work with each other in gladness. Woo! That's a vision to hold. That's a vision to move toward with everything that we do. Because I think that feeling of being whole is what we're all after, isn't it? I think it drives most of what we do. We keep trying to figure out how to feel whole. And so we think we'll feel whole if we have more money. And so we figure out a way to get more money and it doesn't work. We still don't feel whole. Or we think we'll feel whole if we get just the right relationship. And so we meet somebody who could be the right person, but as soon as that initial flush of whatever you want to call that is, love, lust, dazzly eyes, whatever, and hormones, once that wears off, we're back to not feeling whole anymore. Or we think if we get enough, just the right job, or just the right title, or as a culture, we think if we get more oil, or more land, will be secure. And so we do crazy things like go to war to get those things, and we are still not feeling whole. Because it doesn't happen from attachment to something out there. It does not work. The only wholeness we can ever count on is already there. It's a spiritual thing. It is the truth, the spiritual truth that we are already whole. And so like most spiritual things, it is a task of subtraction. We keep subtracting what we've picked up until we come back to what's always been there and say, oh, there it is. There it is. It was there all along, I just couldn't see it. As the Wicked Witch said to Dorothy, my dear, you've had the power all along. Right? See, that attachment to something out there is the mistake that we make, the mistake that we're taught. So Holmes talks about that a lot. And I think what he's getting at is until we understand and believe that truth, until we understand and believe that we are all already whole, we won't feel whole. We will be looking for something, another experience, another something to make us feel whole. We cannot experience being whole in life until we believe it, even though it's the truth and it's already there. So I have another, I've been on this roll of creation stories. I have another creation story for you today. This is the mystical Jewish version as told by Rachel Naomi Remen. If you don't know her, she's an author and physician, and I just discovered yesterday that one of the places that she is on faculty is the Boonshoft School of Medicine at Wright State University. I did not know that. She wrote two or three wonderful books. The ones that I remember are Kitchen Table Wisdom and My Grandfather's Blessings. They're both beautiful books. And her grandfather was a student of Kabbalah and a rabbi. And so this story is her grandfather's words. This is the story, he said, of the birthday of the world. In the beginning, there was only the holy darkness, the Ein Sof, the source of life. Then in the course of history, at a moment in time, this world of 1,000 things, emerged from the heart of the holy darkness as a great ray of light. And then, he said, perhaps because this is a Jewish story, there was an accident. And the vessels containing the light of the world, the wholeness of the world, the vessels that contained that broke. And the light of the world was scattered into 1,000 fragments of light. And they fell into all events and all people and all places, and they remain deeply hidden until this very day. Now, according to Remen's grandfather, the whole human race is a response to this accident, created by the Ein Sof. We are here because we were born with the capacity to find the hidden light, the innate wholeness in all events, in all places, in all people, to lift it up and to make it visible once again, and thereby to restore the feeling of innate wholeness of the world. This is a very important story for our time, I think. In Hebrew, this is called Tikkun Olam, restoring the world. We heal the world one heart at a time. And we start with our own. The message of the story is the same as the First Nations creation story I told you a couple weeks ago. We are all made, born out of the wholeness of spirit. We cannot be otherwise. We can't be anything else. We're born with the capacity to see and reveal wholeness. But we don't feel that way most of the time, do we? I think most of us, most of the time, feel just the opposite. We feel mistaken and broken and not enough and whatever it is we are. Because we're raised in a society that teaches us just the opposite. Teaches us that instead of being whole, we were born in original sin. And that our mistakes are not acceptable, and that, you know, that original sin thing is still a thing. It's embedded in our psyches from birth because it's here. It's everywhere in the society. We base our communal life on certain legends and myths and books, and one of those is this story that's been interpreted. It doesn't actually say that in Genesis, but it's been interpreted as a sin that we all carry, which is, you know, it's up to us to accept that story or not. But at any rate, it's still a thing, that we're broken somehow, that we don't measure up to some ideal set up somewhere out there. And it's reinforced by the idea that in our society that perfection is something that we have to arrive at in order to be enough. Mistakes are unacceptable. Failure makes a loser instead of a learner. That's what we learn, right? That's what we're taught, that we're not enough until we attain some unreasonable and unreachable goal. And so walking the spiritual path, which we are all doing together, is about unlearning all that stuff. It's about unlearning it. It's about uncovering that innate wholeness that's already there, that it's who we are. It's about putting our arms around every single part of us. The learner, because failure does not make a loser, failure makes a learner, right? The one that feels broken, the one who's in pain today, all of that stuff. And that's a simple concept, and it's not an easy task to do. It's not an easy task. Like everything on the spiritual path, simple but not easy, right? If it were easy, we'd all be hovering above the ground and transcended and all that. So Rachel Naomi Remen tells another story. This time it's about her grandmother, the rabbi's wife, the Rebbitzin. The grandmother, you know, they lived in Russia and they were very poor. And because he was the rabbi, people came to their home, and so they were always feeding people in the community. And so when grandmother came to the United States, because she had been so hungry in Russia, she crammed her icebox full of food. It was always stuffed with food. She was used to making things stretch, but when she got here in the bounty of groceries that we all have here, she just filled every nook and cranny. And the family story was, she says, it was told in my family that if you opened the icebox carelessly, an egg could roll out and fall on the floor. And she said, my grandmother's response to these accidents was always the same. She would look at the broken egg with satisfaction and say, today we have a sponge cake. And that's the first step towards uncovering this wholeness, is to let go of the negative attachments to the broken eggs. You know, most of us would go, oh God, you know, and at least we'd kvetch about having to clean up the egg, right? We wouldn't make a sponge cake. Maybe we should learn, right? Maybe we should learn to do that instead. Maybe we should learn to realize that no matter what happens, life is not broken. No matter what happens, we are not broken. No matter what our kitchen floor may look like, we start to reframe our response to the broken eggs and see them as opportunities, sponge cake, instead of disasters. Everything. You know, I got this far in my thinking yesterday, and was visited once again by the beloved Edika Luckett, who died about 3 weeks ago, I guess, and you may know who she was. She was one of the most luminous, authentic, integrated, holy people I've ever met. For as long as I've known her, she was that. And the last few years kind of burned away everything that was not like that in her. 6 years ago, she had a giant health crisis. She's a musician, and she's been here and sung, and she's also been here and spoken, and many of you have run into her at retreats or other places. 6 years ago, she had this giant health crisis, and she went to the hospital, and they told her that her lungs were completely filled with blood clots, and she had 30 minutes to live. Yeah, yeah. And she spoke to us about this time in her travels. About 5 years ago, I think she was here. And she said, it became abundantly clear to her in that 30 minutes that the only thing in life that really mattered was love. The only thing that really mattered was to live from it, to show it to everybody, to let it be her motivation in all things. Obviously, she did not die from the blood clots, but part of that visit to the hospital was that they also told her she had metastatic ovarian cancer. It was diagnosed in the same visit. She paid attention to that lesson. She never forgot. She didn't get feeling better and say, there are other things that matter besides love. No, she lived that way from then on, that love was the only thing that mattered. And every time I was with her, she would take a little piece of love out of her own heart and tuck it into mine. And she did that with everybody. She did that with everybody. She was a remarkable woman. And so since that time, she's moved through 3 gigantic bouts of chemotherapy and radiation, and she's had infections and crises, and 3 times been at the edge of that doorway that moves from this world to whatever is next. But finally, in full awareness, about 3 weeks ago, she passed through that doorway. And during that 6 years, she just got more and more and more deeply sure that love was the thing that mattered and that not much else did. She spoke often of the gifts she received from life on a daily basis. And regardless, and she was absolutely sure that regardless of what her medical records said, her wholeness was never touched. Nothing could damage it. She just got more and more and more sure of that, and she kind of radiated it. She was completely unattached to the crises and focused on the love. And she taught me so many lessons, even just a few times I was around her. One of the things she taught me in a visceral feeling way was that for us humans, life is full of triumphs and losses, of joys and disappointments, of bliss and crisis. That's the way it is. That's the way it is when we get to live here on earth in this body, right? The art of living, then, is to make of the disappointments and the crises, of all of it, something that can nourish us and nourish others. It's up to us to see beyond what we've piled on top of that essential self. It's up to us to make sponge cake, in other words, right? It's up to us to make sponge cake. The first step, I think, towards feeling that is to consciously remember that no matter what happens, life isn't broken. It can never be broken. Life is everywhere, no matter what's going on. Etika didn't stop living simply because she left the body. As her wife said at her memorial service, it's like I'm being hugged from the inside out now. And I feel that. I felt that way yesterday when all of a sudden I went, I started thinking about Etika. It was like a big hug from the inside out. She's in my heart and always will be. For us, the point is to simply remember that life isn't broken. Life includes our vulnerabilities. It includes our illnesses. It includes our wounds. It includes all of our gifts and our beauty, all the wonderful things that we do, our kindness. It includes all of it. Wholeness is authenticity. It is our authentic self. And the authentic self never sits in judgment on our wounds or our vulnerabilities. It simply says, that's how we connect with one another. Through our wounds and our vulnerabilities and our I wonder if they'll like me if I wear a sweatshirt to church, or whatever it is that comes up in us as a little bit of insecurity, or as a big insecurity. Wholeness embraces all of that. And our innate wholeness is never a moral judgment on ourselves, never. It simply means living from what is true, from that place in you where you find the greatest truth. And of course that truth, the greatest truth we find is love. That we're of love, made from love, here to give love, right? The Quaker writer Parker Palmer wrote, "There are no shortcuts to seeing our wholeness. The only way is to put our arms lovingly around everything we've shown ourselves to be. Self-serving and generous, spiteful and compassionate, cowardly and courageous, treacherous and trustworthy. We must be able to say to ourselves and to the world at large, I am all of the above."
Yes.
I am all of the above. It means embracing what appears to be broken as an integral part of life. And it's the embrace of that, the loneliness and the aging and the crankiness and the illness and the whatever it is, with loving arms and saying, I am all of the above. That's wholeness. That's what makes us remember that at our core we are made in love, of love, for love, to love. We're always whole there. We're always whole in that place. So when we start to see that about ourselves, we start to see each other differently. There's no blame anymore. You can't come from that place and blame anyone for what's going on in you. It's all to be embraced. It's all part of this thing we call life, being whole in life. We see that we're whole and they're whole, and that the God in us is always whole. And when we see that, then we see that just like us, everyone else was born to see that hidden light and to raise it up. To find those hidden places where the light is hidden and to call them out, call them forth. That's our life's work. That's our life's work. To see the hidden light and to lift it up. To proclaim its existence in our own lives. And to reveal the innate wholeness of ourselves, of our fellow human beings, of our world. It's time to make sponge cake, folks. So join me in consciousness together. As we remember the truth, that there is only one, that one is God or Spirit or any of the other thousand names it goes by. Yet it is all one. There is only one life. And that life expresses itself as love. It is love that caused whatever that force is, that God force, to think into being all that exists. To think into being that cosmic event from which sprang the universe. To think into being this green planet, just the right distance away from its star so that cells could happen, algae could happen, life could happen. And so that life could evolve into all the beautiful ways it has expressed itself on this planet. And so that eventually it could evolve into us. Those beings who can see the hidden light and raise it up. Who can see the hidden wholeness in all things and celebrate it. Who can eventually see the hidden wholeness in themselves and live from it. This one is all that we are. This one life fills our bodies and the space in between. This one love beats our hearts and enlivens our feet and imbues our hands with a gentle strength that is like nothing else. This one is the essence of our wholeness. God is whole in me and God is whole in you. This one empowers all that is. We express it. We are it. We are the place it shows up in the world. We are the ones who can see the shards of its light hidden everywhere and lift them up and heal everything. And so we begin right here in our own hearts, doing whatever we need to do, repeating ourselves, reframing our experiences, asking ourselves the deep questions. We do whatever we need to do so that we can embrace all that we are as perfect, whole, and complete. Those things that we love dearly and even those things that maybe we wish we hadn't done or don't do. We embrace it all and we say to the world, I am all of the above. And we let our experiences be opportunities, no matter what they look like. A broken egg, a broken leg, a broken heart. It is all an opportunity to find a new way to connect, to give love, to receive love, to be love. And so I simply know for each one of us that this process is not instant, is not easy, but is more satisfying moment by moment and day by day than anything else. We continue as we go down the path to look for those hidden glints of light, for those opportunities to make sponge cake. We look for the opportunity to be the love of Spirit right where we are. And knowing this, I know this changes everything. It changes each one of us, and each one of us changes those around us as we see that light in them and call it up, lift it up, raise it up, proclaim it. And so I am grateful. I'm grateful for everyone who is part of this community, for our opportunity to come together, for all that we are. So in deep gratitude, I just let it all go. I really sit. I know it's already so, and that it's good, very good. And so we say together, and so it is.
I'm just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious well of life. We are all just drops
Amen. That was one of Erica's songs, actually. She wrote that. So our ushers are coming forward. Let us simply think about what we give in support of this center. We give to support this idea of becoming more and more and more a community of love, because that's how transformation happens. We provide the opportunity for someone to come in and see their own wholeness, to feel the love that they are, and that is what transforms. And so I invite you to take your gift in your heart or your hands. If you give electronically, it's got to be in the heart, but that's okay. And affirm, I know the activity of abundance.
I know the activity of abundance.
In my life and in this center.
In my life and in this center.
I give and receive generously.
I give and receive generously.
From this everlasting flow of good.
From this everlasting flow of good.
And so it is. That was sweet. That was sweet. So thanks everybody. Let's stand to our closing affirmation and our closing song, which is Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And don't forget birthday cake in the social hall. Woo-hoo. I see the light within myself.
I see the light within myself.
I embrace all that I am.
I embrace all that I am.
I lift up that light.
I lift up that light.
I proclaim its existence all around me.
I proclaim its existence all around me.
I live from love.
I live from love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a great week, everybody.